Today's briefing is part 2 of the Corruption Tracker series we launched a couple of weeks ago. You would recall that on the 8th of June 2020, we launched a Corruption Tracker initiative to track the status of the numerous corruption scandals that Ghanaians have witnessed and continue to witness under the Akufo-Addo government. Scandals which have occasioned huge financial losses to the state and robbed Ghanaians of the comforts they were promised in the run-up to the 2016 general elections. As I indicated that day, the NDC is deeply worried about the fact that resources which otherwise would have gone into developmental projects in order to uplift the poor are sadly going to line the pockets of greedy officials of the Akufo-Addo government. Indeed, the structural violence that corruption continues to wreak on our people cannot be underestimated, as corruption deprives the vast majority of our people an opportunity to a decent living. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason why we have decided to embark on the Corruption Tracker initiative to expose to the Ghanaian people the extent to which President Akufo-Addo and his corrupt appointees are milking the state coffers dry through grafts and sleaze. During our maiden press conference on this series, we spoke about the Bossgate corruption scandal, in which 5 million liters of contaminated fuel was sold by Boss to some unlicensed businesses in the year 2017 in clear violation of the MPA Act, the Public Procurement Law, under the watch of President Akufo-Addo. Also at that press conference, we condemned the fact that the proceeds of that unlawful transaction had not been paid into the state coffers by the beneficiary businesses, Bovimpina Energy and Zouk Oil. Ladies and gentlemen, against all hope, we had hoped that for once, President Akufo-Addo was going to act on the issues we raised by ensuring that the perpetrators of that daylight heist are prosecuted, or in the very least, ensure that the proceeds from the unlawful transaction were paid into the state coffers for the benefit of all Ghanaians. Unsurprisingly, and very characteristic of President Akufo-Addo, he has once again failed to uphold the national interest, such that as we speak, the proceeds of that illegal transaction have still not been paid into the state coffers, and the perpetrators of this naked thievery are still walking the streets of Ghana as free men, enjoying their loot, as the vast majority of Ghanaians continue to suffer. But despite the refusal of President Akufo-Addo to change his corruption clearing agent ways, duty calls on us as a responsible opposition to continue our Corruption Tracker series in order to shed light on the corrupt activities of this government and the extent of damage it is inflicting on the already constrained public purse and all sectors of the nation, so that Ghanaians can make an informed choice at the upcoming December polls. Today's Corruption Tracker series, Oppressor, will focus on one of the biggest scams ever perpetrated by any government against the Ghanaian people in the history of Ghana. I am talking about the gargantuan and stinking PDS corruption scandal that most of you are very familiar with. Given the possibility that some of you may have forgotten the facts of this matter, I wish to start by way of a brief recap of the sordid events that led to the PDS scam. Distinguished friends from the media, you may recall that the Akufo-Addo government sometime in July 2019 informed the Ghanaian public that it has suspended the ECG concession agreement with Power Distribution Services PDS Ghana over what they described as, quote, material and fundamental breaches, unquote, relative to the demand guarantee provided by PDS to ECG. You may also recall that the Energy Minister, Honorable John Peter Amewu, and his deputies subsequently followed up and described the entire ECG PDS concession agreement as fraudulent. The key facts and events that led to this situation are as follows. Number one, the PDS concession agreement was the product of the American government's Compact 2, also known as the Power Compact, with the government of Ghana, which required that Ghana introduces private sector participation into ECG's retail business with the aim of improving the power distribution sector of the country. The Power Compact is a result of Ghana's successful implementation of Compact 1, a $547 million deal, which the Kufuor and Mills administrations between 2007 and 2012 used to undertake agricultural reforms and major infrastructural projects such as the N1 highway project in Accra. The PSP concession agreement, approved by the Parliament of Ghana, contained 45 conditions precedent which had to be fulfilled by PDS before they took over the 20 billion assets of ECG. Under condition precedent 24 and 31, PDS was required to provide ECG a payment security in the form of a letter of credit or demand guarantee with a value of $350 million from a bank. The purpose of this payment security was to safeguard the assets of ECG so that in case of default by PDS, Ghana, through ECG, could fall on scene to recover our losses. This precondition of a demand guarantee from a bank was therefore critical to the protection of the assets of ECG and the interests of Ghana under the ECG PDS concession agreement. Contrary to the effort of Ghana's parliament to protect the public purse, and in order to safeguard our interest in the concession, the Akufo-Addo government shamefully conspired to bend the rules for PDS by changing the key requirement of a bank guarantee to a less liquid instrument, an insurance guarantee, thereby jeopardizing the assets, the over 20 billion cedis assets, worth of assets of ECG. Ladies and gentlemen, this infamous and nation-wrecking decision was taken by high-ranking government officials, including the Vice President of the Republic, Dr. Bawumia, representing President Akufo-Addo at a meeting at the Jubilee House on 19th February 2019. Pursuant to these scandalous amendments by the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, the Finance Minister and cousin to President Akufo-Addo, Ken Ofori-Atta, and the Esom Benjamin-led MIDA, PDS subsequently provided an insurance guarantee with dubious validity to ECG, as same was ascribed as fraudulent by our courts a Qatar-based reinsurance company, which purportedly issued the said insurance guarantee. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the FTI investigative report on this matter, which was commissioned by MIDA at the instance of the US government, crucial advice from Ghana's own financial advisors on this transaction for the necessary due diligence to be done before the said insurance guarantee was accepted by the Ministry of Finance and ECG, and the assets of ECG handed over to PDS was ignored. In short, the over 20 billion assets of ECG were handed over to a fraudulent company called PDS by the Akufo-Addo government on the 1st of March 2019 on the basis of a fraudulent insurance guarantee. It is worthy of note that under the guise of promoting local content, 51% of the shares in this fraudulent company PDS were allotted to companies belonging to friends and cronies of President Akufo-Addo under very shady circumstances in furtherance of his state capture agenda. As was found by the FTI investigative report, these local companies had no technical capacity in power retailing and did not demonstrate any financial capacity to manage a critical national asset such as the 20 billion worth of assets of ECG. Indeed, the FTI report found that PDS could not even raise the needed funds from equity contributions of its shareholders to pay the so-called insurance guarantee it claims to have secured from our court, such that out of the $12.25 million that was charged by CarBank to PDS as fees for raising the fraudulent guarantee, only $1 million, equivalent to 8% of the amount, was funded by an equity contribution from a PDS shareholder, Philip Ayunsu of TG Energy Solutions. $7 million of that amount, constituting 57%, was funded by a loan that was advanced by CarBank to another PDS shareholder, Santa Baron Ventures. However, this loan was repaid from operating cash flows, that is, electricity bills collected by PDS after the transfer date from you and I. The balance of $4.25 million was also paid directly from operating cash flows generated by PDS after the transfer date. In other words, what I mean by operating cash flows is the electricity bills electricity consumers paid to PDS within the period that the concession agreement was in force. And all these damning findings are contained in the FTI report commissioned by MIDA under the instance of the US government. Subsequent attempts by the finance minister and cousin to President Akufo-Addo, Ken Ofori-Atta, to restructure the shareholding of PDS after the deal was sealed, with the aim of diluting and appropriating the shares of the original shareholders for other cronies of the president, is what lit the spark for the whole PDS inferno. As some of you may recall, the original Ghanaian shareholders rebelled and refused to participate in this charade. It is this defiance that outraged the Akufo-Addo faction and occasioned the suspension and subsequent termination of the PDS concession agreement. It is instructive to note that, ladies and gentlemen, this fraudulent entity called PDS collected a total of over 1.5 billion Ghana cedis in the form of electricity tariffs from electricity consumers from 1st March 2019 to 18th October 2019, when the concession agreement was in force. As a matter of fact, it was part of these monies, as I've already indicated. That is about $11.25 million that PDS used to finance the insurance guarantee from the Qatar-based reinsurance firm, accuses, which was later found to be fraudulent and invalid. Finally, in recapping the key facts that led to the PDS scam, ladies and gentlemen, the cancellation of the PDS concession agreement by the Akufo-Addo government in the manner it happened occasioned the abrupt termination of the whole MCC Ghana Power Compact by the US government. Consequently, the US government withdrew the second tranche amount of $190 million, equivalent to 10 billion Ghana cedis it had allotted to Ghana for the improvement of the power sector of the country under the Power Compact. Overall, Ghana lost about $1.8 billion as a result of the greed and avarice of President Akufo-Addo and his corrupt family and friends cabal, who sought to appropriate the over 20 billion Ghana cedis worth of assets of ECG for themselves. And when I talk about a total financial loss of $1.8 billion, I'm talking about, first of all, the $190 million the US government withdrew. That is a second tranche of $190 million they withdrew because of how poorly we manage the Power Compact. Two, I'm referring to the $500 million budgetary support the US government had committed to advance to the government of Ghana, which was also withdrawn as a result of this scandal. I'm also referring to the $400 million Ghana lost under the Regional Compact, because subsequent to the Power Compact, we were to benefit from a Regional Compact under which the US government was prepared to give us $400 million for other developmental projects. We lost all these huge sums of money and many more as a result of the greed of President Akufo-Addo and his family and friends cabal, who were determined to appropriate the assets of ECG at all costs. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, these are the sordid and sad events that occasioned the PDS corruption scandal. However, the real tragedy of this scandal is summed up by these nagging questions which are begging for answers. And I wish, through you, the media, who are the fourth estate of the realm, that government will provide answers to these nagging questions. Number one, since the Minister for Energy, Honorable John Peter Miwu, told Ghanaians that the insurance guarantee PDS presented for the takeover of the over 20 billion Ghana cedis worth of assets of ECG was fraudulent, a fact corroborated by accuses, the Qatar-based company which allegedly issued the said guarantee. Who were those who perpetrated this fraud against Ghanaians? And what actions has President Akufo-Addo taken to ensure that they answer for this fraud? Who are those? If Peter Miwu says that the transaction was fraudulent, the insurance guarantee which was presented to government for the takeover of the assets of ECG was fraudulent, on the basis of which the concession agreement was terminated, then who are those who perpetrated this fraud? And what has President Akufo-Addo done to them? Because we know that fraud is a crime under our laws and punishable through criminal prosecutions and convictions thereof. Number two, who are the state actors who neglected to perform their fiduciary responsibility to the state by failing to conduct the necessary due diligence on the insurance guarantee presented by PDS, and what action has President Akufo-Addo taken against them as we speak? Number 3, can the Akufo-Addo government tell Ghanaians the total amount of monies PDS collected from electricity consumers in the form of electricity bills from the 1st of March 2019 to the 18th of October 2019, when the concession agreement was still in force? Per our estimation and from our checks, over 1.5 billion Ghana cedis was collected by PDS. But we have not heard any official communication from the Akufo-Addo government or from President Akufo-Addo himself, who touts himself as a paragon of transparency and accountability on this matter. Ghanaians and electricity consumers in general deserve to know the amount of monies we paid to that fraudulent entity called PDS. The 4th question we would want to ask is, have those monies been accounted for? And if yes, have same been audited? 5, if PDS has accounted for those funds collected, we know they have not, but if they have accounted for those funds collected, and same has been audited, then can President Akufo-Addo and his government publish those accounts for the benefit of you, the media, who are the 4th estate of the realm, and the entire Ghanaian people? Ladies and gentlemen of the media, what we know is that as we speak, the perpetrators of the PDS scam are still walking the streets of Ghana as free men, despite the fact that government itself described the transaction as fraudulent. No arrests nor prosecutions have taken place till date. The lives of Vice President Dr. Bawumia, the Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta, and the Eson Benjamin-led MIDA, who aided, abetted, and facilitated this scam on the people of Ghana, which has occasioned a huge financial loss to the state, have not been held to account for the roles they individually or jointly played in this scam. Also, cronies of President Akufo-Addo, such as Mr. Philip Ayensu, the Baba, I'm sure you remember him, an appointee of President Akufo-Addo on the NCA board, who was the chairman of PDS, and the other directors of the local partners in the company, who perpetrated what government itself alleges to be fraud on the people of Ghana, have all been left off the hook. Even more bizarre and scandalous, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that till date, PDS, the company made up of friends and cronies of President Akufo-Addo, who were gifted the 20 billion Ghana cedis worth of assets of ECG on the basis of a fraudulent insurance guarantee, and operators saying for more than 7 months have not been able to account for the over 1.5 billion Ghana cedis they collected from electricity consumers in this country. Also, all calls for the accounts of PDS to be audited by an independent and internationally reputable audit firm have been ignored by President Akufo-Addo. And so, as we speak today, Ghanaians, and I'm sure even you in the media, do not even know how much was collected by PDS from electricity consumers within the duration of the concession, and whether those funds have been properly accounted for and audited. Friends from the media, it is these plain acts of thievery and corruption that has entrenched President Akufo-Addo as the chief corruption clearing agent. It is glaringly clear that President Akufo-Addo has no intention to pursue the prosecution of persons responsible for the PDS scam and the recovery of the billions of Ghana cedis they collected from electricity consumers for the state. We in the NDC are not in the least surprised at the nonchalant posture of President Akufo-Addo on this matter. We have always known that President Akufo-Addo can neither be trusted to punish the perpetrators nor ensure that the monies collected by PDS are refunded to the state, because he and his corrupt government are complicit and neck deep in this scam. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, never in the history of Ghana have we seen this level of corruption and naked thievery like we are witnessing under the reign of President Akufo-Addo today. Despite promising to protect the public purse, President Akufo-Addo has supervised the biggest rape of the public purse in Ghana's history. This has led to a situation where millions of money which should have gone into the provision of schools, hospitals, roads, potable drinking water, jobs, and other critical investments in the productive sectors of the economy for the benefit of all Ghanaians have been diverted into the pockets and bank accounts of a few selfish officials of the Akufo-Addo government, while the masses continue to suffer. Friends from the media, these acts of naked robbery and the cover-up of same by President Akufo-Addo as pertains to the PDS scam is what has entrenched President Akufo-Addo as a chief clearing agent of corruption, who shields his corrupt appointees from punishment. This is why we have always maintained that President Akufo-Addo is the biggest enabler and promoter of corruption in his government. Today, the incorruptibility tag he was clothed with by his party communicators and some elements in the media prior to the 2016 general elections has turned out to be a ruse which was presented to Ghanaians for their votes and nothing more. Ghanaians should not and will never forgive President Akufo-Addo for supervising this stinking PDS scam, which has caused the nation a huge financial loss of over $1.8 billion, and the numerous corruption scandals, the other numerous corruption scandals that has engulfed this government in the last 3.5 years. We, in the NDC, call on the good people of Ghana to kick out the corrupt Akufo-Addo government regime and vote for the John and Jane ticket come 7 December 2020. This country needs leaders who are honest and incorruptible. And those are none other than His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and his running mate, Professor Nana Jane Opoku Agyemang, who have dedicated themselves to serving this country with honor and integrity in all the positions they have served in, they have individually served in. As President Mahama has already announced, when he is given the opportunity to serve this country again on 7 January 2021, inshallah, he shall wage a ruthless war against corruption in all sectors of our nation through an anti-corruption crusade dubbed Operation Stink. Ghanaians can be rest assured that under the Operation Stink crusade, the next NDC Mahama government shall ensure that all monies, here I'm referring to the over 1.5 billion Ghana cedis revenue PDS collected from the people of this country, President Mahama will ensure that all these monies collected by PDS from electricity consumers are properly accounted for and ensure the retrieval of any amounts misappropriated by the company, their promoters and accomplices for the state. Also, the next NDC Mahama administration shall ensure the arrest and criminal prosecution of all persons who directly or indirectly played roles in this stinging PDS scam and the other several corruption scandals we have witnessed under the watch of President Akufo-Addo in the last 3.5 years. As President Mahama has demonstrated, or as President Mahama demonstrated between 2012 and 2016, when he ensured the prosecution of his own appointees and party members in the Youth Employment Authority scandal involving our own Abuga Pele and Mr. Asibet, as well as the National Service Secretariat payroll fraud scandal, among others. President Mahama will not be a clearing agent of corruption in the next NDC government. And I want to repeat this point for emphasis. As President Mahama demonstrated between 2012 and 2016, when he ensured the prosecution of his own appointees who were found culpable in some corruption scandals, President Mahama will not be a clearing agent of corruption in the next NDC government. Through the Operation Stink initiative I've already mentioned, all appointees of the next NDC Mahama government shall be required to publish their assets, and no acts of corruption in any form, whether by Mahama appointees or political opponents, will go unpunished. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the only way we can succeed in the fight against corruption. This is the only way we can save Ghana of the millions of monies that government appointees often steal from the people to enrich themselves. And this is the only way Ghana can stamp out the canker of corruption, which undoubtedly has been the bane of the country's development for so many years. Above all, ladies and gentlemen of the media, President Mahama shall ensure the judicious utilization of state resources for the development of the country through far-reaching policies such as the Agenda 1 Million Jobs Policy, the Free Primary Health Care Program, the National Apprenticeship Program, the Free TVET Program, what he announced only yesterday, which is the Big Push Policy, which will inject an amount of $10 billion into infrastructural projects to dualize key roads, complete the remainder of the 200 community-day senior high schools, finish all abandoned hospital and road projects, among others, for the benefit of all Ghanaians and not a select few. Thank you very much for your attention, ladies and gentlemen.